A week before my son's wedding, I overheard my family planning to use me as a babysitter for a crowd of about 15 children during the entire reception, so I changed my plans. On the morning of the wedding, my son called me, frantic. "Mom, where are you?" I just laughed softly and told him not to wait for me or for the buffet I had promised to prepare. My name is Evelyn Carter. I'm 72 years old, and I never thought that at my age I'd have to teach my own family such a hard lesson. For months, I had been preparing for my son David's perfect wedding. I had promised to take care of the entire buffet because I wanted to save them money. I calculated that it would cost me around $3,000 for all the ingredients, but I was going to do it with love. I had also offered to decorate the reception hall, make the centerpieces, and coordinate with the vendors. It was my gift to them, my way of showing how much I loved my son and how happy I was that he had found love again. Lauren seemed like the perfect daughter-in-law. When David introduced her to me 2 years ago, she was always very polite. She called me Ms. Evelyn with respect. She brought me flowers when she came to my house and offered to help in the kitchen. "Ms. Evelyn," she would say with that charming smile, "let me help you with those dishes. Your cooking is delicious." David is so lucky he grew up eating like this. David was so happy. After years of being a widower, seeing him in love again filled my heart with joy. I was in my kitchen one Tuesday afternoon, making the final shopping list for the buffet, when I heard voices on the patio. My son David was on the phone with someone from work, and Lauren was talking to her sister Brittany, who had come to visit from out of town. At first, I didn't pay attention. I was focused on calculating how many pounds of meat I'd need to feed 150 guests, how many salads to prepare, and how many desserts. But then I heard my name. Something in Lauren's tone made me stop. Quietly, I moved closer to the kitchen window that overlooked the patio, staying hidden behind the curtain. "Look, Britt, I have everything perfectly organized for the kids at the wedding," Lauren said, using that sweet voice she always used with me. "David's mom is going to watch them during the whole party. There are about 15 kids, from babies to teenagers, but she's totally used to it. This way, we adults can enjoy ourselves without any annoying interruptions." Brittany laughed loudly. "That's so smart, sis. The old lady's gonna take care of all those screaming brats while you guys dance, drink, and have fun. Perfect that way. They don't bother us or ruin the reception photos." "Exactly," Lauren continued on. Her voice sounded different now, colder. "I already told David that his mom loves watching kids. She won't even realize we're using her. She's always willing to help with whatever. It's like having a free professional nanny for the whole night. Plus, it'll keep her busy so she doesn't interrupt any important conversations." She agreed. Brittany asked. "We didn't even ask her directly." Lauren laughed. "David just mentioned there would be some kids, and she immediately offered to help if we needed anything. Of course we said yes. She's perfect for the job, experienced, patient, and totally free." I felt like I'd been slapped in the face. There I was, in my kitchen, hands covered in flour from making cookies for their wedding, spending my money, time, and energy to make their day perfect while they were planning to use me as unpaid labor without even asking. "The best part," Lauren continued, "is that since she'll be busy with the kids all night, she won't be able to eat much of the buffet. She's preparing more food for the important guests." They both burst out laughing, as if they'd made the funniest joke in the world. My heart pounded so hard I thought they would hear it. 72 years of life, raising children, watching grandchildren, always putting family first, and this was how they repaid me. As if I were a servant, available 24 hours a day. I stood there behind the curtain, feeling the anger rise from my feet to my head, but it wasn't just anger. It was a mix of pain, disappointment, and humiliation, so profound it made my chest hurt. For 2 years, I had treated Lauren like the daughter I never had. I had welcomed her into my home with open arms, included her in every holiday, taught her the secret recipes passed down from my grandmother. "You know what else I like about the plan?" Lauren continued, unaware I was listening. "Since the old lady will be running after kids all night, she won't be able to get into our adult conversations. You know how mothers-in-law are always giving opinions and telling boring stories about when David was little." Brittany laughed. "Oh my God, yes. My mother-in-law is the same way, always interrupting with 50-year-old anecdotes no one cares about. At least yours will be useful for once." "Exactly. And the best part is that David thinks his mom is offering out of love. He doesn't realize we planned it this way from the beginning." "Men are so naive," Lauren said with a malicious chuckle. I heard David's footsteps approaching after he finished his call. "What are my beautiful ladies laughing about?" he asked, using that loving tone he always used with Lauren. "I was just telling Brittany how organized I am," Lauren replied, instantly switching back to her sweet tone. "I've arranged everything so the guests' children won't be a nuisance. Your mom's going to watch them." "My mom is an angel," David said proudly, "always willing to help. It's incredible how she still has the energy to run after kids at her age." "Yeah, it's very convenient to have a mother-in-law like that," Lauren murmured, but David didn't catch the sarcasm. I walked away from the window, nauseated. This woman who had acted like the perfect daughter-in-law for 2 years, who had made me feel loved and respected, who even called me mom on special occasions, actually saw me as a free employee and a nuisance. I went up to my room, my legs trembling, and sat on the edge of the bed, the same bed where I'd slept next to my husband for 30 years before cancer took him. I looked at the family photos on my nightstand. David graduating from college, his first communion, our beach vacations. I had dedicated my entire life to being the best mother I could be, and now that I thought I was gaining a daughter, I discovered I was just convenient labor. Over the next few days, I acted as if nothing had happened. When David called to ask about the wedding preparations, I answered normally, "Yes, son, everything's perfect. The buffet's going to be delicious." When Lauren came to visit and said sweetly, "Ms. Evelyn, don't worry too much about the wedding. Try to relax and enjoy yourself," I smiled and nodded. "Of course, dear, I'm so excited." But inside, a plan was already taking shape. If they wanted to play dirty, I could play too. After all, I'd lived 72 years. I'd raised a child on my own after losing my husband. I'd run a family business, survived things they couldn't even imagine. I wasn't going to let them treat me like a servant. Certainly not on my watch. On Wednesday morning, 3 days after I'd overheard that conversation, I called my best friend Nancy Reed. We had known each other for over 40 years and had been through everything together. "Nancy," I said, skipping the greetings, "I need to tell you something, and then I need your help with a plan." "Oh, Evelyn," she replied instantly, half amused, half worried, "from the sound of your voice, I can tell someone made you mad. Tell me everything." So I did. I told her about what I had overheard, the words, the laughter, the humiliation that had crawled under my skin. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she sighed deeply. "Evelyn, that girl is a snake. How dare she talk about you like that after everything you've done for them? You've spent months planning that wedding. You even paid for half of it. And this is how she repays you." "I know, Nancy," I said calmly. "But here's the good part. I have a plan and I need your help." "Name it," she said immediately. "You know you can count on me for anything." I explained my ideas step by step. By the time I was done, Nancy was laughing so hard she could barely breathe. "Evelyn, you're a genius," she said between giggles. "That spoiled girl is going to get the surprise of her life. Count me in." On Thursday, I began executing the first part of the plan. I called all the caterers I'd hired for the buffet. "Good morning. This is Evelyn Carter. I need to cancel all the orders for Saturday's wedding." Yes, I knew it was last minute, but a family emergency had come up. Some tried to charge me a cancellation fee, but I managed to get through with only small penalties. Then I called the florist. "Hello, this is Evelyn. I need to cancel the centerpieces for Saturday." "No, I won't need them for another date." And just like that, every order was gone. On Friday night, the day before the wedding, I packed a small suitcase, 2 days' worth of clothes, my medications, my favorite book, a few personal items. David had called earlier to confirm that everything was ready. "Mom, how are the preparations? Do you need me to come help with anything?" "No, son, everything's perfect. Tomorrow is going to be a wonderful day," I replied, my voice as calm as ever. "Mom, you're the best. Lauren and I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done for us." "You don't have to thank me for anything, David," I said softly. "Tomorrow everything will go exactly as you planned." That night, I barely slept, but it wasn't nerves keeping me awake. It was excitement. For the first time in years, I was going to take my dignity back. Saturday morning, the day of the wedding, I woke up before sunrise, 5 o'clock. My eyes were wide open. I took a long shower, fixed my hair, and put on my favorite coral dress, the one that always made me feel confident and elegant. It wasn't the dress I'd planned to wear to the wedding. No, this one was for special occasions. And this, I thought, smiling at myself in the mirror, was most definitely special. Thought right on time, at 7. Nancy pulled into my driveway with her 2 suitcases and a grin full of mischief. Ready for your day of freedom, Evelyn? She asked, hugging me tight. More than ready, I said. I've been waiting for this moment for 2 years without even realizing it. We had booked a weekend at a luxury spa resort, 2 hours outside the city, a peaceful place overlooking a lake. The package included massages, facials, gourmet meals, and a private room with a jacuzzi, everything I had saved for the wedding buffet. I was now going to spend on myself for once. Before leaving, I wrote a letter and left it on the kitchen table right where David always sat when he came to visit. Dear David, by the time you read this, I'll be enjoying a well-deserved rest. For months, I prepared everything to make your wedding perfect. But yesterday, I found out that Lauren and you had other plans for me. Apparently, my role in your special day was to be the free nanny for 15 children during the entire party, without anyone bothering to ask me if I wanted that job. Since the buffet I promised was also part of my unconsulted duties, I decided to cancel everything. I hope you find a quick solution. With love but with dignity, Mom. While Nancy loaded the luggage into her car, I took one last look around my house. The kitchen, where I'd planned to cook all night for their buffet. The dining room, where I'd been organizing centerpieces. The living room, filled with half-packed boxes of decorations. All of it had been done with love. But that love had been mistaken for obligation. Evelyn, are you sure about this? Nancy asked, once I got in the car. Because once we start driving, there's no turning back. I fastened my seatbelt and smiled. Nancy, I'm 72 years old. If I don't stand up for myself now, when will I? Fair point, she said. Then buckle up, my friend. Let's start the car. The drive to the spa felt like a release. As the city faded in the rearview mirror, we both laughed about old times, about how our kids used to throw tantrums at dinner, about how we'd always been the ones keeping everything together. Remember when our biggest problems were kids refusing to eat their vegetables? Nancy said, laughing. I missed those problems, I replied. At least back then, when you did something out of love, it was received as love, not taken for granted. They arrived at the spa around 10. The place was even more beautiful than the photos. Manicured gardens, shimmering lake water, birdsong instead of city noise. The receptionist handed them mimosas. Welcome, ladies. Your rooms are ready. Treatments start in 1 hour. Is this a special occasion? Yes, I said with a genuine smile. I'm celebrating my independence. As I settled into my beautiful room with a lake view, I started to imagine what was happening back in the city. The wedding was scheduled to start at 4 in the afternoon, but buffet preparations usually began early. By 9 o'clock. David would probably be calling, asking if I needed help loading the food. By 11, they'd realize something was wrong. At 11:30, just as I was stepping into my first massage, my phone began to buzz. It was David. Then again, and again. I let it ring. Then I turned the phone off completely. Ms. Carter, is everything all right? The masseuse asked when she saw my smile. Perfectly fine, dear, I said, sinking into the warmth of the stones. Please, continue. For the next 3 hours, I surrendered to peace. The hot stone massage melted away years of tension I hadn't even realized I carried. The facial left my skin glowing. At lunch, Nancy and I enjoyed a gourmet meal on the terrace overlooking the water-delicious food that, for once, I hadn't cooked myself. You know what I like most about this? I said, raising my glass of white wine. What's that? Nancy asked, smiling. That, for the first time in years, I'm doing exactly what I want to do when I want to do it without asking anyone if it's okay or if they need me to do something first. Nancy raised her glass in return. I'll drink to that. Tend to the look on Lauren's face right now. We both laughed, and for a moment, I felt 20 years younger. At 3 in the afternoon, curiosity got the better of me. I turned my phone back on. 17 missed calls from David, 8 text messages, 3 missed calls from Lauren. David had never called me that many times in his life, not even when his father was in the hospital. The messages came one after another, increasingly desperate. Mom, where are you? We've been calling all morning. Mom, I found your letter. Please call me urgently. Mom, the wedding starts in an hour. Please answer. Mom, where's the food? The guests are already arriving. Mom, please, we can talk about this later, but we need the buffet right now. Mom, Lauren's crying. Please help us. Mom, there are 15 kids here and no one knows what to do. I couldn't help but smile. I took a deep breath and dialed David's number. He answered on the first ring. Mom, where are you? He shouted, sounding more panicked than I'd ever heard him. "Hi, sweetheart," I said gently. "I'm at a beautiful spa with Nancy, enjoying a chocolate massage. How's the wedding going?" "Mom, this isn't funny. The guests are here, and there's no food. The caterers are asking where the buffet is." Lauren won't stop crying. "Oh, honey, didn't you read my letter?" I said, my tone calm as ever. "I canceled the buffet when I found out my real job was to be the nanny, not a guest." "But Mom, the wedding has already started. We can't cancel now." "David, you're 45 years old, a grown man with a good job and a fiancé who's apparently great at organizing things. I'm sure you'll figure it out. Is there a fast food place nearby?" "Mom, you can't be serious." "Son, I've never been more serious. Enjoy your wedding. We're going to enjoy our spa. Oh, and don't expect me early tomorrow. We're having breakfast here, too." "Wait, Mom. Lauren wants to talk to you." I could hear chaos in the background, crying, shouting, the clatter of plates. Then Lauren's voice came on, stripped of its usual sweetness. "Miss Evelyn, you can't do this to us. You promised the buffet. There are 150 people here." "Lauren, dear," I replied calmly, "I promised the buffet when I thought I was a guest at your wedding. But when I realized I was actually the hired help, I changed my mind. And, as the saying goes, labor is paid." I don't recall ever getting a paycheck. "But what about the kids? There are 15 of them here and there. Parents are asking who's going to watch them." "Yes, I imagine that's quite a problem. Don't you have a sister who could help you?" "What's her name again?" "Brittany. I heard she thinks I'm excellent with kids." The silence on the other end was exquisite. For a few long seconds, I could hear nothing but chaos: children crying, adults arguing, someone shouting about the cake. How do you know about that?" Lauren stammered, and for the first time in 2 years, her voice cracked with something real fear. "Oh, sweetheart," I said, smiling to myself. "You learn a lot of things when you're 72. One of them is that walls have ears, especially when people gossip too loudly on my patio." "Evelyn, please, can we talk about this later?" "Right now, I need Lauren," I interrupted. "You don't need me. What you need is a professional nanny. They charge around $10 an hour per child. Let's see, 15 kids for 6 hours. That's $900. A bargain compared to the $3,000 I spent on your buffet." In the background, I heard her yelling, "David, your mom's gone crazy. She says she knows everything we said." Then David's voice came back, shaky now, stripped of confidence. "Mom, did you hear us when we were talking on the patio?" "I heard plenty of things, son. For example, that I'm an old lady who's useful for keeping busy so I don't interrupt adult conversations, that I wouldn't even notice I was being used, and my favorite part, that I'm basically a free professional nanny." Silence. Again, across from me. Nancy gave a quiet thumbs up and mouthed, "Perfect, Mom," David said at last, his tone that of a scolded child. "David, you're 45, I replied. "You're a successful man. Did it really never occur to you to ask if I wanted to spend your wedding chasing 15 kids instead of celebrating with you?" "We thought you liked watching kids." "I like watching my grandkids, David. I don't like being the official wedding nanny for strangers, especially when no one asks me first. And I definitely don't like hearing that my daughter-in-law thinks I'm a nuisance that needs to be kept busy." "Lauren didn't mean that, David," I cut him off. "I'm 72. Not senile." I heard every word. I heard when she told Brittany she was smart for getting a free babysitter. I heard when they laughed about how I wouldn't have time to eat much of the buffet because I'd be too busy. I heard when Brittany said at least her mother-in-law would be useful for once. This time, the silence wasn't awkward, it was heavy. Even the spa music couldn't drown it out. Somewhere, in the background of the call, I could hear children screaming, someone yelling, "Where's the woman who was supposed to watch the kids?" My son's running all over the garden. "There's your answer, David," I said. "The show has begun. Mom, please come. We'll pay you. We'll give you $500 to watch the kids." I laughed so hard Nancy almost spilled her wine. 500, David. 5 minutes ago, it was a family favor I was supposed to do out of love. And now you're trying to hire me like a last-minute babysitter. No, sweetheart. There isn't enough money in the world for me to ruin my coral dress chasing kids I don't even know. From the background came Lauren's voice, shrill now. "Evelyn, you're selfish. You ruined our wedding." "No, Lauren," I replied evenly. "You ruined your wedding when you decided saving money was more important than treating people with respect. I just chose not to be part of my own humiliation." David took the phone again. His voice was shaking now, caught somewhere between anger and guilt. "Mom, please, Did you really hear everything? I heard enough, I said quietly. I heard that I'm an old lady you can use so I won't bother anyone, that I wouldn't even notice I was being used, that I'm a free nanny for the night. Believe me, soon I heard plenty. The silence that followed was long and heavy. Even the sound of children crying in the background couldn't fill it. Across the spa table, Nancy poured me another glass of wine, raised her eyebrows, and whispered, "Perfect delivery." "Mom," David said again, his tone softer now, "I didn't mean for this to happen. I thought you liked helping. I thought you wanted to do it out of love. I do things out of love, David, but there's a difference between giving from the heart and being taken for granted. I've spent my whole life giving, and now it's time for me to give to myself." On the other end, I could hear chaos breaking loose. "Where's the woman who was supposed to watch the kids?" Someone shouted. "My son's running wild." Another voice cried. "See," I said calmly, "that's the sound of consequences. You don't need me there. You just need to start learning that love doesn't mean servitude. Mom, please come. We'll pay you. We'll give you $500 to watch the kids." I couldn't help it. Ty laughed. A deep, genuine laugh that startled even Nancy. $500, David. 5 minutes ago it was a favor. Now it's a paycheck. No, son, my days of working for free or for guilt are over. I could hear Lauren crying in the background, her voice rising. "Evelyn, you can't do this. You're ruining our day. There are guests here, children everywhere, and everyone's looking at us." "Lauren," I said, my tone steady and kind in that way only a mother can manage, "I'm not ruining your wedding. You did that yourself the moment you decided to treat me like hired help. Respect is free, dear, it costs nothing. But once you lose it, it's very expensive to get back." She went quiet for a second, and then came back shouting, "You're a selfish old woman. You've humiliated us in front of everyone." "No," I replied softly. "You humiliated yourselves when you forgot that kindness is a two-way street. I just decided not to stand in the middle of it while you drove over me." I could hear David trying to calm her down. "Lauren, please just stop yelling. Let me talk to her." Then his voice, lower this time. "Mom, I know you're angry, but this is my wedding. Can't you please forgive us for one day? We'll talk about everything later." "Forgive you," I said gently. "Sweetheart, forgiveness comes after so far, all I've heard are excuses. Besides, I already gave you something better than forgiveness. I gave you a lesson you'll never forget." He groaned softly, defeated. "Mom, please. The parents are furious. The kids broke the cake. One's hiding under the table. Another ran outside. We're losing control." "Where's that clever sister of your wife?" I asked lightly. "The one who said I'd be useful for once. Can't she lend a hand?" "She says she didn't know she was supposed to help," David admitted helplessly. "How convenient," I murmured. "Well, I'm afraid your mother isn't on duty tonight. Try the Yellow Pages. Professional nannies usually pick up last-minute calls." "Mom, please," he begged, his voice cracking now. "Don't do this to me. I thought you loved me." That one hit deep. For a brief second, I felt the sting in my chest. But then I breathed and answered softly, "David, I do love you. And because I love you, I'm teaching you that love without respect becomes abuse. I'm not punishing you, I'm showing you the difference." There was nothing but silence on the line. I could picture him there, standing in his tuxedo, surrounded by crying kids, angry parents, and a furious bride. "David," I said one last time, calm and clear, "I'm going to hang up now. My massage therapist is waiting, and unlike you, she treats me with respect because she's being paid for her time. Think about that." And before he could respond, I ended the call. I put my phone face down on the table and leaned back in my chair. Nancy clapped softly. "Bravo, Evelyn. That was masterful." I smiled, feeling a strange mix of calm and liberation. "I feel free, Nancy. For the first time in years, I feel completely free." We sat there on the terrace, overlooking the quiet lake. The sun was sinking low, turning the water gold. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't worrying about anyone else, only myself. "Evelyn," Nancy said gently, "are you sure you did the right thing? I mean, David's your only son." I took a long sip of wine before answering. "Exactly, Nancy. Because he's my only son, I have to teach him this now. If I don't, Lauren will turn him into a man who thinks his mother is just an unpaid maid. And I won't allow that." For the next few hours, my phone vibrated constantly. I didn't check it. Instead, Nancy and I enjoyed our spa treatments as if nothing in the world could disturb our peace. The collagen facial left my skin smooth as silk. The lavender oil massage melted away decades of tension from trying to be the perfect mother, the perfect grandmother, the perfect woman who never says no. Later, as we sat in the jacuzzi under the soft evening light, I turned to her and laughed quietly. You know what's funny, Nancy? What's that? For 2 years, I tried so hard to be the ideal mother-in-law that I lost myself. I cooked what Lauren liked. I decorated how she thought was pretty. I even changed the way I dressed to fit her image of a perfect grandmother. And the more I tried, the less she respected me. Nancy nodded. I noticed you, who were always independent, suddenly asking for permission to breathe. I didn't recognize you anymore. You were right, I said softly. For her, my kindness was weakness. My willingness to help became her permission to use me. At that moment, I realized something profound, that age doesn't make you invisible unless you let it. People only walk over you when you lie down for them to do it. That night, as the last streaks of sunlight disappeared behind the lake, I turned my phone back on. 43 missed calls, 26 text messages, several from unknown numbers. The first few were from David. Mom, we had to order pizza for everyone. We spent $1,200. 3 families left because no one could watch the kids. Lauren's crying in the bathroom. She says you ruined her life. The photographer asked if we can take family photos. I told him Grandma couldn't make it. Then one message from an unknown number. Ms. Carter, this is Denise Palmer, mother of one of the children at your son's wedding. I just wanted to say, what they did to you wasn't right. Some of us parents already left. I hope you're okay. I showed the text to Nancy, smiling faintly. Looks like I'm not the only one who thinks I did the right thing. Of course you did, she said. Any decent person would see that. I set the phone down and leaned back. The water was warm, the night was quiet, and for the first time in decades, I didn't feel like anyone's maid or mother or organizer. I felt like me. That night, I stayed in the jacuzzi until the stars came out. The water shimmered like glass beneath the moonlight, and I felt lighter than I had in years. Every vibration from my phone was like an echo of the past, where I always dropped everything for someone else. But not tonight. Tonight, I chose myself. When I finally got out, I wrapped myself in a white robe, poured a small glass of wine from the minibar, and sat on the balcony overlooking the lake. My phone kept lighting up, buzzing with notifications. I sighed, finally unlocking it. The messages kept coming. David, Lauren, unknown numbers. It felt like reading the aftermath of a storm. Mom, the wedding's over. It was a disaster. The kids broke 2 centerpieces and stained a guest's dress. Lauren's sister had to watch some of the kids and now she's furious. Lauren says she'll never forgive me for letting this happen. Mom, why are you doing this to me? I thought you loved me. That last one hit harder than the rest. But love and obedience aren't the same thing. I took a deep breath and wrote back, David, it's because I love you that I won't let you treat me like an employee. A son who loves his mother doesn't use her without asking. He doesn't let his wife mock her. I love you, but I also love myself. It was time you learned the difference. Minutes later, another message popped up. Lauren says maybe we should move away. She says she can't live near someone who ruined her wedding. I read it 3 times, then set the phone down. That line, so dramatic, so manipulative, was exactly what I expected from Lauren. So I wrote back slowly, deliberately. If Lauren wants to move because she can't face the consequences of her actions, that's her choice. But know this, David, a woman who truly loves you would never try to separate you from your family just to punish someone. That's not love, that's control. After sending it, I turned my phone to silent. The night was calm again, the lake reflecting a perfect moon. I felt peaced for the first time since I'd become a widow. When I woke up the next morning, the sun was already high, glistening on the lake like a sheet of gold. I stretched, smiled, and realized something strange. No buzzing phone, no anxiety, no rush. It was quiet, beautifully quiet. At breakfast, Nancy was already seated, sipping coffee, her hair tied back in a loose bun. She looked up as I approached. You look different, she said with a grin. Lighter somehow. I feel different, I replied, like I've finally set down a weight I didn't even realize I'd been carrying for years. We ordered pancakes, fruit, and fresh coffee. For once, we talked about everything except the wedding, about the books we wanted to read, the places we wanted to visit, and all the things we put off for too long because our families always came first. You know what, Nancy? I said, stirring my coffee. I think I'm finally going to take that trip to Europe we've been dreaming about since forever. Her face lit up. You mean it? Yes and no. I'm not going to wait for David or Lauren to need me to babysit their imaginary kids first. She laughed so hard she nearly spilled her coffee. I'll drink to that. After breakfast, we extended our stay for 2 more hours and booked the private jacuzzi again. It was the first time in decades I'd spent an entire weekend thinking only about myself. No cooking, no caretaking, no guilt. By the time we got home later that afternoon, the sky was starting to turn orange. My house looked different, calmer somehow. I made myself a cup of tea, changed into my most comfortable clothes, and sat in my favorite armchair by the window. At 6 o'clock, the doorbell rang. When I peeked out, I saw David's car parked in the driveway. He was standing there, alone, shoulders slumped, holding something in his hand. I opened the door. "Hi, Mom," he said softly. He looked exhausted, like a man who hadn't slept in days. "Hi, David. Come in." He stepped inside, glancing around the house that had once felt like his second home. The silence between us was thick but not angry, just heavy with things that needed saying. We sat down, he on the sofa, me in my armchair, the same one I'd sat in the night. I overheard everything. For a while, neither of us spoke. Finally, he took a deep breath and said, "Mom, I need to apologize." I nodded, waiting. "Lauren and I talked all night after the wedding," he said quietly. "At first, she was furious with you, but when I told her exactly what you'd overheard, she realized how bad it sounded, how awful it was, and I realized it too. And I asked gently." He lowered his head. "Mom, for the past 2 years, I've treated you like you were my employee instead of my mother. How does that make you feel?" I asked, keeping my tone calm. "Horrible," he said without hesitation. "Ashamed. I keep thinking about Dad. He must be rolling in his grave, knowing how I let this happen." That caught me off guard, but I kept my composure. "David, it's not just about the wedding. It's about all those times you assumed I'd say yes. You stopped asking if I wanted to help you, just expected it." He nodded. "You're right. I didn't even think about it. I thought, Mom always says yes, so it's no big deal." "And Lauren," I asked, "how does she really feel?" "She's ashamed too," he said. "She told me she'd never had a mother-in-law before and didn't know how to handle it. But she knows what she said was cruel." "Does she really know that, or are you just saying that to soften it for me?" "No, Mom. She knows. She told me she wants to apologize to you personally, but I told her I needed to talk to you first." I got up and walked to the window, watching the late afternoon light fall across the garden. The flowers I'd neglected during the wedding preparations were drooping a little, but still beautiful. "David," I said finally, "I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest. Do you think Lauren respects me, or does she just see me as useful?" He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "I think until last night, the two got mixed up. But after seeing what happened, she knows she lost sight of what really mattered. And you." I turned to face him. "Do you see me as your mother or your problem solver?" He swallowed hard. "Honestly, Mom, for a while, I saw you as someone who would always fix everything, not as a person who could say no." I sat back down, folded my hands, and met his eyes. "David, I appreciate your honesty, but you need to understand something. Things are going to change from now on." He nodded quickly. "I understand, Mom. What do you need from us?" "I need you to ask, not assume. I need you to treat me as a guest, not staff. And I need Lauren to understand that I'm your mother, not her employee. And most of all, I need you both to respect it when I say no." He nodded again, quietly. "Yes, Mom, you're right." "Good. And one more thing," I said, my voice firm but kind. "Next time Lauren speaks badly about me to anyone, you defend me. You don't stay silent while someone disrespects your mother." "I will," he said, voice low. I should have done that already. The house fell silent again. Then, softly, he asked, "Mom, do you forgive me?" I smiled faintly. "You're my son, David. I'll always love you. But forgiveness isn't a sentence, it's a process. I need to see the change first." He nodded again. "That's fair." Before leaving, he looked back at me, almost like he was seeing me for the first time in years. "Mom," he said quietly, "thank you for teaching me this, even if it was the hardest way possible." "Sometimes," I said gently, The hardest way is the only way that works. The next few days passed quietly, no calls, no favors, no one asking if I could bake, sew, decorate, or just help out. It was strange, but liberating. For the first time in years, my days belonged entirely to me. Then, on Wednesday afternoon, my phone rang. It was David. "Mom, Lauren wants to come talk to you tomorrow, if that's okay," he said. "Is she sure she wants to do that, or does she feel obligated?" "She's sure, Mom. She's been quiet these past few days, thinking about everything." I paused. "All right," I said finally. "Tell her to come tomorrow at 4. "Thanks, Mom. It means a lot to both of us." "David," I said gently, "I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for myself. I need to know if there's something left to rebuild or if I should simply move on." The next day, exactly at 4, the doorbell rang. When I opened it, Lauren stood there on my porch. She looked completely different. No makeup. Her hair was pulled back into a simple ponytail, jeans, sneakers, and a plain white blouse. But the biggest change wasn't in her clothes, it was in her face. The fake smile was gone. Her eyes looked human, vulnerable. "Hi, Ms. Carter," she said softly. "Thank you for seeing me." "Come in," I replied, stepping aside. She sat on the edge of the couch like someone ready to bolt at any second. I sat across from her, calm and silent. I wanted her to speak first. After a long pause, she exhaled shakily. "I don't know where to start." "Start wherever you feel comfortable," I said gently. She nodded, hands trembling slightly. "Miss Carter, I want to apologize for what I said about you. It was cruel, disrespectful, and completely unfair." I didn't respond, just let her keep going. "I said those things because I was stupid and insecure," she continued, her voice cracking. "I've never had a mother-in-law before. My mom died when I was 15, and after that, my dad remarried a woman who never cared about me. So, when I met David, and then you, I didn't know how to act. You were so confident, so good at everything, so loved by everyone. I felt like I'd never measure up." "So your solution was to make me small?" I asked quietly. Tears started to form in her eyes. It wasn't conscious, but yes, I think that's exactly what I did. When you feel insecure, you sometimes try to feel better by making others smaller. It's ugly, but it's the truth. "At least you're being honest," I said, crossing my arms gently. "But tell me something, Loren. What made you finally realize how wrong it was?" "When you didn't show up," she said. "When I read your letter, I realized how awful I had been. I realized I'd turned the woman who raised the man I love into someone I treated like a maid, and that made me feel sick. I saw the chaos at the wedding. I knew I'd done that. I caused that." She stopped to wipe her tears. "And now," I asked, "how do you feel?" "I feel ashamed, and I feel sad that I lost the chance to have a real relationship with you, because I think you're amazing, Miss Carter." I was just too proud to admit it. I looked at her for a long moment. She was crying quietly now, not for attention, not out of guilt, but out of something real. For the first time since I'd met her, I believed her. "Lauren," I said slowly, "I appreciate your honesty, but I need to ask you something directly. Do you really want a relationship with me, or are you just trying to make David happy?" "At first," she whispered, "it was for him, but now, it's for me, because I realized I lost something important. I lost the chance to have a mom figure again, and I want to fix that, not to use you, but to earn your trust." I sighed softly. "Lauren, I can't be your mother. Your mother passed away, and no one can replace her. But I can be your mother-in-law who respects you and expects respect in return." She nodded quickly. "That's all I want. Mutual respect and a chance to start over." "And are you willing to prove it with actions, not just words?" "Yes," she said firmly. "From now on, I'll never assume anything. I'll ask before I plan something that involves you. I'll include you as family, not as help. And if you ever say no, I'll respect that without trying to make you feel guilty." We sat in silence for a long moment. I could see she was waiting for my answer, but I wanted to weigh every word carefully. Finally, I said, "Lauren, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't trust you yet. You're going to have to show me with actions that these changes are real, not just apologies made under pressure." She nodded. "I understand. What do you need me to do?" "I need time," I said. "Time to see how you treat me when there isn't a crisis. If you can do that, maybe we can start again." Her eyes softened. "Thank you for giving me that chance. But this is the only one," I warned gently. "If you ever treat me like that again, if you ever use me or talk about me that way, there won't be another chance." "I understand," she whispered. Good, I said, relaxing slightly. Now, tell me how you've spoken to your sister. I have, she said quickly. I called Brittany on Monday and told her everything. I told her how wrong we both were. She wanted to apologize to you too. I don't need her apology, I said firmly. She's not part of my life, but I do need her to understand that she can't talk about me that way again when she's in my home. She understands, Lauren said quietly. She's really embarrassed. We were silent for a while again. The air between us felt lighter now. Miss Carter, Lauren said softly after a pause, thank you for teaching me this lesson. I know it wasn't your job to educate me, but you did it in a way I'll never forget. Lauren, I didn't set out to teach you anything, I said, smiling faintly. I just wanted to be treated with dignity. That's all any person wants. She smiled through her tears. Do you think one day we can have a normal mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship? That depends entirely on you, I said. I'm willing to try if you truly change. I will, she said, her voice steady. I promise. Don't promise, I replied softly. Just show me. She stood up, took a step toward the door, then turned back. Miss Carter, can I ask you something? Of course. How can I be a good daughter-in-law? That question caught me off guard. It was so simple, so honest, that for a moment I forgot all the hurt. Being a good daughter-in-law is the same as being a good person, I said quietly. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Ask before assuming. Respect boundaries. And remember, behind every favor someone does for you, there's a person who chose to help. Never forget that. She nodded slowly, tears still glistening in her eyes. Can I ask you if I have questions in the future? Real ones. I mean, not manipulation. I smiled. If they're genuine questions, Lauren, then yes, you can. Thank you, Miss Carter, for everything. As she walked out the door, I felt something strange, cautious hope. Maybe she meant it. Maybe she really had learned. When the door closed, I sat down, exhaling deeply. The house was silent again, but the silence felt different this time. Not heavy, not lonely, peaceful. The next 2 weeks were quiet. No favors, no assumptions, no last-minute mom. Could you just calls that used to fill my days. At first, I thought David and Lauren were angry, giving me the silent treatment. But then I realized something else. They were simply respecting my space. It was new, strange, but it felt good. I spent my mornings tending my garden, my afternoons reading, and my evenings cooking only for myself. I had forgotten what that kind of peace tasted like. Then, one Friday night, my phone rang. It was David, his tone calm but a little nervous. Mom, he said, I need to ask you something. For a moment, I held my breath. Old habits made me tense, expecting the usual request that would eat up my weekend. But his next words surprised me. It's Lauren's birthday tomorrow, he said. I want to throw her a small surprise party. I already booked the caterer, the venue, sent the invitations. I just need your help with the decorations. You have a great eye for that. And of course, I'll pay you for your time and ideas. I blinked, smiling despite myself. David, you don't need to pay me to help with decorations. That's something I'd love to do as a gift for her. But, I paused. I appreciate that you asked instead of assuming. He exhaled, almost laughing in relief. You'd really help me. Of course, it's a sweet gesture, son, and I'll help however much I can. But if it gets too heavy, I'll let you know, okay? Okay, Mom, he said warmly. That means a lot. Thank you. When I hung up, I sat there for a long time, smiling quietly to myself. It wasn't just that they were reaching out, it was how they were doing it, with respect, with care, with choice. For the first time in a long time, I felt hope. The next morning, David picked me up early. We drove to his house, his and Lauren's house, and for the first time, it truly felt like theirs, not mine. There were photos of the two of them smiling, a few new plants, cozy touches that said home. We spent the morning in the backyard, decorating for the party, golden balloons, white ribbons, a few flower arrangements. David had done almost everything himself. He'd ordered catering, rented tables, even printed a little banner that said Happy Birthday, Lauren. He handed me a box of candles and fairy lights. Mom, what do you think of these? They're lovely, I said, hanging them along the garden fence. A little light always makes everything warmer, and it's more forgiving than sunlight, I added with a wink. He laughed. You haven't changed. Oh, I have, I said, smiling. You just don't realize how much yet. By the time we finished, the backyard looked magical. Soft lights, gold accents, a table full of beautifully plated food, and not a single dish had come from my kitchen. David looked around proudly. Mom, this looks incredible. Lauren's going to love it. I hope so, I said, brushing off my hands. You can tell she's loved when you do something thoughtful like this. I do love her, he said quietly, but I also learned something important. Loving my wife doesn't mean I get to stop respecting my mom. I turned to look at him. His voice was steady, his eyes sincere. That simple sentence meant more to me than any apology ever could. When Lauren arrived that evening, thinking she was walking into a quiet dinner, she froze in the doorway. The whole backyard glowed with light and laughter. Her friends and family shouted. Surprised, she covered her mouth with her hands, eyes wide, then burst into tears. I can't believe you did this, she said, hugging David tightly. He smiled and kissed her forehead. It's your day, honey. You deserve it. Then he turned toward me and said loud enough for everyone to hear, and Mom helped me decorate. She's the reason it looks so beautiful. Lauren walked over to me immediately and wrapped her arms around me. Miss Carter, thank you. Everything looks perfect. It was my pleasure, Lauren, I said softly. Happy birthday. And it truly was, because for once, my help had been requested, not assumed, appreciated, not exploited. Throughout the evening, I sat with David's friends and Lauren's colleagues, talking and laughing. No one treated me like the hired staff or the mother who did the buffet. They introduced me proudly as David's mom. They offered me a seat at the main table, not tucked away in the corner. At one point, one of Lauren's friends, a cheerful woman in her 30s, leaned over and said, "You have exquisite taste, Miss Carter. Where did Lauren learn to decorate like this?" Before I could even open my mouth, Lauren answered quickly, her voice bright and clear. "Oh, I didn't. Miss Carter designed everything. She has an incredible eye for beauty." The words caught me off guard, not because of what she said, but because of what she didn't say. There was no sarcasm, no competition, just genuine gratitude. That small moment meant more than she could ever know. Later that night, as guests began to leave and the lights flickered softly in the warm evening air, Lauren came over and handed me a slice of cake. "I hope you had a good time, Miss Carter," she said gently. "I did," I replied with a smile. "It was a lovely evening. Thank you for helping us," she said. "Really, I don't think I ever realized how much you do until I had to plan something myself." I looked at her, studying her expression. It was genuine, tired, but sincere. "You're learning," I said kindly. "That's all any of us can do." As I left, David hugged me tightly at the door. "Mom," he said softly, "thank you for everything, for giving us another chance." I smiled. "You've already earned it, son. Keep treating people right and keep choosing respect. It looks good on you." He laughed. "I'll remember that." As I walked down the driveway, under the soft glow of the porch light, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not the kind that puffs up the chest, but the quiet kind that sits in your heart and whispers, "You did the right thing." 2 months after the wedding disaster, something unexpected happened. One morning, as I was watering the roses in my front yard, my phone rang. The number looked unfamiliar, but I answered anyway. "Hello, Miss Carter," a gentle female voice said. "This is Denise Palmer. I'm the mother of one of the children who was at your son's wedding." I smiled faintly, remembering her name from the message she'd sent that chaotic night. "Of course, Denise. How are you?" "I'm good, thank you," she said, her tone warm. "I wanted to tell you something you might find interesting." "Oh, what's that?" "Do you remember Thomas Mitchell, Lauren's father?" she asked. "Yes, of course," I said slowly, curious where this was going. "Well," she chuckled softly, "Thomas and I actually met that night, at the wedding. We were both trying to keep our kids calm while everything was falling apart. And, well, we got to talking about life, about family, about what had happened to you, and we both agreed that what they did to you was wrong." I could hear the warmth in her voice, the kind that comes from smiling while speaking. "Anyway," she continued, "we kept in touch after that night. We've been seeing each other for a while now, actually." I blinked, caught somewhere between surprise and delight. "You and Thomas?" "Yes," she laughed. "Who would have thought a disastrous wedding could bring two single parents together? He told me he felt terrible for how things turned out with Lauren and wanted you to know he spoke to her afterward. He made it very clear that she needed to respect you." I couldn't help but laugh softly. "Well, Denise, it sounds like something good came out of that night after all." "It did," she said. "And I just wanted you to know, we both think you did the right thing, standing up for yourself like that. Most people your age wouldn't have had the courage." "Sometimes," I said with a smile, "you have to teach people how to treat you no matter how old you are." That's exactly what Thomas said, she replied. Anyway, I just wanted to thank you. You inspired us more than you realized. When we hung up, I stood for a long time among my flowers, smiling at the thought. Somehow, life had a funny way of weaving small, beautiful threads through even the messiest days. 3 months later, Lauren invited me to lunch, just the two of us. We met at a quiet cafe near my house, one with warm wooden walls and the smell of fresh bread in the air. When I walked in, Lauren was already there, sitting by the window with 2 cups of tea. "Miss Carter," she said, smiling as she stood to greet me. "Thank you for coming." "Of course, dear," I said, sitting down. "You look well." "I feel well," she said, exhaling softly. "Better than I have in a long time. I've been going to therapy." I raised my eyebrows, pleasantly surprised. "Therapy? That's wonderful. What made you decide to do that?" She stirred her tea for a moment before answering. "After the wedding, I realized I had issues I never faced. My therapist helped me understand that after my mom died, I built walls instead of dealing with the grief. I thought I had moved on, but really, I was just afraid of being close to any older woman again. It made me defensive." I nodded slowly. "That explains a lot." She smiled sadly. "It does. I used to think having a mother figure would make me weak again, like losing my mom did. But you scared me because you were everything I missed. Strong, confident, warm. I didn't know how to handle it." "That must have been hard," I said gently. "It was," she admitted, "but I'm learning. My therapist says it's never too late to change the way you love people." "That's true," I said softly. "You're already proving it." She smiled then, the kind of smile that comes from sincerity, not performance. "Ms. Carter," she said, her tone warm, "would you allow me to start over? Like we're meeting for the first time." "What do you mean?" I asked. "I mean," she hesitated, then continued, "I want to get to know you. Not the woman I was supposed to please or compete with. I want to know Evelyn the person." That one made me smile. "I'd like that very much, Lauren." She leaned forward slightly. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course." "What dream of yours did you put aside when you got married? Something you never did because life got in the way?" I laughed softly. "That's a deep question." She shrugged, smiling shyly. "I'm trying to know the real you." I thought for a moment, tracing the rim of my teacup. "I always wanted to write a book," I admitted. "A cookbook, actually, but not just recipes. Family stories, too, the memories behind each dish, but I never found the time." Her face lit up. "Then maybe now's the time. You taught me it's never too late to take your life back. Maybe it's not too late for you to chase a dream." Her words stayed with me long after we left the cafe. Over the next few weeks, I began to write. Every morning, I sat by my kitchen window with a cup of coffee and a notebook, writing down the stories of my family, my recipes, my lessons learned, the laughter, the heartbreak, and the moments that shaped me. I poured everything into those pages. It felt like therapy, like breathing again, and slowly, something beautiful began to take shape. A book I called Cooking with Love, Serving with Dignity. Lauren helped me design the cover and taught me how to share my work online. David handled the printing. For the first time, we worked together not out of obligation, but out of mutual respect. A year after that disastrous wedding, David and Lauren invited me to dinner. "Mom," David said with a grin, "we have some news." "What is it?" "We're going to have a baby," Lauren said, her eyes shining. I gasped and hugged them both. "Oh, sweetheart, that's wonderful." David smiled. "We want you to be part of the baby's life, but on your own terms. You decide how much you want to be involved. No expectations." Tears welled up in my eyes. "That's all I ever wanted," I whispered. "The freedom to choose how to love my family." Lauren smiled. "And what do you choose, Miss Carter?" I laughed softly. "I choose to be a grandma who's there when needed, but who also has her own life, her own plans, and her own dreams." "Perfect," David said. "That's exactly what we want." And that's how it happened. At 73 years old, I became a grandmother, an author, and finally a woman who knew her worth. Thought sometimes, saying no doesn't mean closing a door. Sometimes, it means opening one to yourself. A year after that chaotic wedding, I stood in front of a small crowd gathered at a cozy bookstore downtown. A banner hung behind me, printed with the title of my first book, Cooking with Love, Serving with Dignity, Recipes and Reflections of a Modern Grandma. I never thought I'd see my name on a book cover at 73. Yet there I was, Evelyn Carter, once the unpaid wedding caterer, now the woman who had finally written her own story. The room smelled of coffee and fresh paper. My hands trembled slightly as I looked at the faces around me. David and Lauren sitting together in the front row, smiling with pride. A few of my old friends, including Nancy Reed, who had been there since the very beginning. Even Thomas Mitchell and Denise Palmer had come, sitting side by side with gentle smiles that spoke of quiet happiness. When everyone had settled, the host gave me the microphone. I took a deep breath and began. "This book," I said softly, "isn't just about recipes. It's about the things we feed the people we love, the meals, yes, but also the time, the care, and sometimes the parts of ourselves we forget to save for us." The audience was silent, listening closely. I continued. "For most of my life, I thought love meant saying yes to everything. Yes, I'll cook. Yes, I'll babysit. Yes, I'll sacrifice my rest, my savings, my voice because that's what mothers do, right?" A few people nodded quietly. "But what I learned," I said, my voice steady now, "is that love without self-respect isn't kindness, it's surrender. And no matter how old you are, it's never too late to stand up, to draw a line, and to say, 'I am worthy of respect.'" As I spoke, I saw Lauren wipe a tear from her cheek. David reached for her hand. I smiled. A year ago, I thought I'd lost my family, but what I really lost were the chains I'd built myself, the belief that being loved meant being useful. Once I let go of that, everything changed. My son found his voice, my daughter-in-law found humility, and I found peace. The crowd broke into gentle applause, the kind that feels more like understanding than noise. Afterward, during the signing, people lined up to have their copies signed. I wrote small notes for each: "Cook with love, serve with dignity. You are never too old to begin again. Respect starts in the mirror." When it was Lauren's turn, she handed me her copy with trembling hands. "Ms. Carter," she said softly, "I have a confession." I looked up, smiling. "What is it?" "You're the reason this book exists," she said. "Your courage inspired me. You taught me that it's possible to love deeply and still respect yourself, that it's okay to set boundaries." Her voice quivered. "You changed how I see family, how I see myself." "Then I guess we both learned something," I said gently. She hesitated, then whispered, "May I call you Mom now?" The word lingered between us, warm and full of meaning. I felt my throat tighten. "I'd love that, sweetheart," I said. "I really would." She smiled through her tears and leaned in to hug me. And for the first time, it didn't feel awkward or forced. It felt real. That night, when I got home, I set the last signed copy of my book on the shelf beside my wedding photo, the one from 49 years ago, when my late husband Robert and I were just beginning our life together. I poured myself a small glass of red wine and sat by the window. The moon hung low and bright over the quiet street. The world felt still. I thought of everything that had happened in the past year, the anger, the heartbreak, the laughter, the healing. Some lessons come too late to save what's broken, but others arrive right on time to rebuild what still matters. Weeks later, David and Lauren welcomed their baby girl into the world. When they brought her to visit me for the first time, I held her close, so tiny, so peaceful, wrapped in a pink blanket. "Her name is Grace Evelyn Carter," Lauren said softly. "We named her after you." I looked up, stunned. "After me," she nodded, "because you taught us what grace really means." Tears welled in my eyes as I kissed the baby's forehead. "Welcome to the world, little Grace," I whispered. "May you grow up knowing that love and dignity can live side by side. Sometimes, life gives you back everything you thought you'd lost, but in a better form." My son and daughter-in-law became partners who truly saw me, not for what I could do, but for who I was. My friendship with Nancy grew stronger than ever. And as for Denise and Thomas, well, they ended up getting engaged the following spring, proof that even in chaos, love can bloom in the most unexpected ways. And me, I became something I never expected at my age, a woman who no longer apologized for taking up space. I traveled to Paris with Nancy, finally visiting the places we dreamed of since we were girls. I started teaching small cooking classes at the local community center, sharing recipes, stories, and laughter with other women who, like me, had spent too long putting themselves last. One of them asked me once, "Ms. Carter, what's the secret to being happy after 70? I smiled and said, "Learning that saying no doesn't make you selfish. It makes you free." Now, every morning, I sit by the same window where it all began, where I once stood behind a curtain and overheard words that broke my heart. But today, when I look out at my garden, I don't see betrayal. I see growth. I see sunlight. I see proof that dignity, once reclaimed, can bloom again and again stronger each season. Sometimes, the greatest act of love is not giving more, it's finally keeping enough for yourself. And that, my dear, is the story of how a 72-year-old mother learned that even after a lifetime of yes, it's never too late to start saying no.